Ever feel like you're carrying something heavy? You know that feeling, right? But you can't quite put your finger on what it is.
Yeah, like a weight on your shoulders, but nothing's really there.
Exactly. And you know what's wild? Back in April of 1973, Harold B. Lee, he was the president of the church back then, well, he talked about that exact feeling. And let me tell you, even after all these years, his words really hit home.
1973. Wow, that was a crazy time, wasn't it?
Seriously, think about it. Vietnam War is winding down, Watergate's blowing up, society's kind of reeling like, what just happened?
People must have been feeling pretty uncertain, huh?
Totally. And Lee's listeners were living through it all. Kind of reminds me of, well, now actually,
Yeah, there are some parallels, aren't there?
for sure. So today's deep dive, we're going deep, beyond just summarizing. We're going to dig into the core of Lee's message.
Sounds insightful.
I think so. Let's uncover those timeless truths, about resilience, service, finding solid ground when everything feels shaky.
I'm ready.
Okay, so Lee kicks off with this powerful story about a young man on his way to the temple. This guy's confessed his mistakes, made amends, the whole 9 yards.
He's trying to do right.
Totally. But get this, he's still wrestling with this nagging feeling like, am I truly forgiven?
He's looking for that deep down reassurance.
Exactly. That feeling of truly being clean. And it's so relatable, even if you're not coming from a strictly religious place. That need for validation, for knowing you're okay, it's universal, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. We all crave that inner peace, that feeling of being okay, especially after, well, messing up.
It's part of being human.
It really is.
And Lee dives even deeper into it. He says that the heaviest burden we carry is sin.
That's a powerful image.
Right. Although that word sin, it can feel a little heavy. Maybe even a tad outdated. What do you think he's really getting at with that? Especially given all the anxieties of 1973.
I actually think it's brilliant. Lee's audience, they were dealing with a world in chaos, uncertainty everywhere. He could launch into this complex theological lecture.
But he didn't.
No, he went straight for something deeply resonant. The weight of our mistakes, those things we wish we could take back, that burden of guilt, regret, even shame that can really hold us back.
It's like he's speaking directly to that inner turmoil, that feeling of being weighed down by stuff we'd rather forget.
Precisely. And it's not about dwelling in the negative. It's about acknowledging those burdens so we can move towards forgiveness, healing, and ultimately resilience.
Okay, so we've got this idea of carrying burdens, but then Lee throws us a curveball. He says, the heaviest burden we bear is the burden of not helping others bear their burdens. It's like he's saying that helping others isn't just a nice thing to do, it's actually essential.
Essential for what?
For lightening our own load. How does that even work?
It's kind of mind-boggling, right?
Totally.
You'd think, hey, I'm already swamped here.
Right.
But shifting your focus, looking outward instead of inward, there's something powerful about it.
So it's like helping others, it kind of takes our minds off our own stuff.
It's more than that. Think about it. When we're stuck in our own heads, wrestling with our own problems, it's so easy to feel helpless. Small, even.
Yeah.
But when we reach out a hand, to help someone else,
Yeah.
even in a small way, it reminds us we have something to offer.
We can make a difference.
Exactly. And that can be so empowering, especially when things are tough. It's like we connect to something bigger than ourselves.
And that connection brings purpose.
Exactly. And that sense of purpose can be incredibly healing.
It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
We got to take care of ourselves so we can care for others.
Exactly. And that's where this gets even more interesting. Lee, he tells this story about Peter, healing the lame man in the Bible.
I remember that one.
He doesn't just tell the story, though. He focuses on what Peter says. Silver and gold have I none, but such as I have, give I thee. See, he's highlighting that idea of giving what you do have, even when it doesn't seem like much.
It's about showing up authentically, being real. But then Lee adds this line that kind of threw me. He says, you cannot lift another soul until you are standing on higher ground than he is.
Yeah.
At first, it sounds kind of harsh, like you got to be superior to help someone.
Right. I can see that. But I think Lee's getting at something much deeper. He's not talking about some kind of moral superiority complex.
So it's not about looking down on anyone.
No, not at all. It's about recognizing that you can't give what you don't have. It's like you can't pull someone out of a hole if you're down there with them. You've got to do your own inner work, cultivate your own strength. That's how you authentically offer support to others.
So it's not about physical position, it's about internal foundation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Leading by example, embodying those qualities you're trying to help others find.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Meeting people where they are, but from a place of strength, not trying to pull them up when you're barely hanging on yourself.
Exactly. And that takes us right back to Lee's point about self-care, addressing our own burdens so we can be more present, more supportive.
It's interesting how he ties together personal responsibility and compassionate service. Like they go hand in hand.
Absolutely. And that message, it resonates so strongly today, even more than back then, maybe.
Mhm.
We live in a culture that glorifies busyness, pushing yourself to the limit.
And then we wonder why we're burnt out.
Exactly. Lee's message is a powerful reminder. Self-care isn't selfish, it's essential.
It's the foundation.
Yes, for a life of meaning, purpose, and service to others.
It's like a permission slip to slow down, take care of ourselves.
Yeah. And it's interesting. This ties into one of the most fascinating parts of this whole sermon. Lee, he shares this story about being incredibly sick, like really sick.
On the airplane.
Yeah, on an airplane. And then all of a sudden, he experiences this, well, he calls it a healing.
And he's almost uncomfortable talking about it.
Right. It's almost like it sounds too unbelievable, even to him.
Yeah. He's not trying to explain it away as some kind of miracle or anything.
Exactly. He just says something powerful happened, something he couldn't quite grasp.
It reminds me of those moments where things just happen in life and you're like, whoa, I can't explain that. But it leaves you feeling grateful.
Yes, exactly. Those moments of, I don't know, unexpected grace, maybe, whatever you call them, they can be incredibly powerful.
Totally. Like a hidden strength we didn't even know was there.
Exactly. And, that brings us back to this idea of holy places. Lee talks about the temple being a place of peace, a place of renewal, but he also says something else. He says it's about cultivating that same spirit. But in our homes, our relationships, our everyday lives.
So finding those sacred spaces.
Yeah. And it hit me as you were talking, maybe a holy place.
Mm.
It doesn't have to be a physical place. It could be a feeling, a state of mind, a connection to nature.
Even something like a creative outlet.
Exactly. Anything that brings you that sense of peace, purpose, that connection. It's about actively seeking those things out, those sources of strength that help us get through the tough stuff.
Building our own temples, kinda.
Exactly. But those spaces, they might look different for everyone.
For sure, the important thing is finding what truly nourishes you and then making it a priority.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This deep dive, wow, we really went deep, didn't we? We covered so much.
We did. From burdens to service, self-care, even those holy places we were just talking about.
And it's amazing how a sermon from 1973, it still feels relevant today.
It really does. It's like those core human experiences, that desire for connection, finding your purpose, feeling like you belong, those never get old, do they?
Nope, they don't. And on that note, I want to leave you with something to think about. What burdens are you carrying today?
Yeah.
And where can you find healing, support, maybe even a little bit of that unexpected grace we talked about? And what are your holy places, those places you go to feel strong, to feel renewed, to weather those storms?
Great questions to ponder.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it sparked something in you, inspired you to seek out those sources of strength, find hope, and feel that connection in your own life. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and keep diving deep.